Guess what, folks? The World Series everyone wanted is about to start. And we've got the host of Locked On Rangers and Locked On Diamondbacks. Oh, so they're somewhere up there. This is a 3 podcast crossover. This is Locked On MLB.
You are Locked On MLB. Your daily MLB podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hello, baseball fans. Hello, Ranger fans. Hello, Diamondback fans. Hello, baseball fans everywhere. And welcome to a Locked On Rangers, Locked On Diamondbacks, Locked On MLB crossover. Are you keeping score at home? I know I am. We finally, after 4.5 months of playoff games, we have whittled it down to 2 teams. The American League champion Texas Rangers, the National League champion Arizona Diamondbacks. 2 teams I predicted would be swept out of the wild card series are going to collide. Lock antlers. That's right. I should have bet on these 2 at FanDuel, but I did not. And we're here doing a World Series preview. I am your host from Locked On MLB. My name is Paul Francis Sullivan, but please call me Sully. I am an Emmy-nominated television producer who has been a baseball podcaster for well over a decade now, and this is my 5th World Series as a member of the Locked On Podcast Network. Follow us at Locked On MLB Pods on Twitter and Instagram. I'm your pal Sully. I'm at Sully Baseball on Twitter, Sully Baseball Podcast on Instagram. And one more piece of business before we introduce them, that today's episode is brought to you in part by Jase Medical. Empower yourself when you purchase a JCase, providing you with personal supply of antibiotics that treat 50 infections. I bet even more. Get yours today at jasemedical.com. That's JASE medical.com. Hey, we have on the show today from Locked On Rangers. Who do we have?
We have Brice Paterik, host of Locked On Rangers, also my 5th season, and the first one where my team's actually good, and so good they beat the Houston Astros in 7 games to go to the World Series. Oh my gosh, what a relief.
Well, you would have asked a genie for that at the beginning of the year, and I know Millard would have asked a genie to beat the Dodgers. They did so in about a third of an inning in 1 game. Introduce yourself to the good folks.
Yeah, I mean, I just asked to make the postseason, and here we are at the World Series. Millard Thomas, Locked On Diamondbacks. We're, of course, on all your podcasting platforms. Follow Locked On Rangers on YouTube. Follow Locked On Diamondbacks on YouTube. And, of course, follow Locked On MLB on YouTube.
All right. Hey, Millard was my guest yesterday because he actually he was floating when the
literal
when the
floating.
Diamondbacks won. But let's bring it over to you, Brice, because I haven't had you on during the postseason. This has been pretty incredible. Tell us, especially, sweeping Tampa Bay. Okay, Tampa Bay was asleep. Sweeping Baltimore was pretty amazing. In fact, not even having the lead for every inning, with the exception of 1 inning, through 2 games in the American League Championship Series, and then a bunch of thrilling games, and some games where the final score was misleading, like game 6 was a thriller, even though the Rangers exploded in the 9th. Tell me a little bit about your roller coaster of emotions, as both of you root for teams that backed into the postseason and stunned everyone by where they ended up.
I don't know about backed into the postseason. I mean, the Rangers, clearly were the best team in the American League West. But I don't know if people know this because they only said it about 1,800 times on the Fox broadcast. But the Rangers actually lost the division on the last day. But they were.
I didn't know that.
I know. It's a fun fact that literally no one has ever heard. But I was just floating like Millard was for the first 2 rounds of these playoffs as my team just annihilated everybody in their wake. And they were sweeps, but they weren't close sweeps either. It was just absolute domination. I mean, game 1 of the ALDS was the only game that was close. And then the Rangers win the first 2 against the Astros. And you think, oh my God, the Rangers are never going to lose again. I'm never going to feel sad again. Everything's going to be great. And then you lose 3 straight at home and take the 2019 Nationals route and win every road game and start Max Scherzer in a game 7. The parallels were amazing, except instead of like that game 7 being a close game, it was an absolute rout. A beautiful game that I just got done rewatching for the first time today that I was actually at. the first actual Rangers game that I've gone to all year, and the first game I've ever gone to in Houston. Yeah, I've been kind of cloistered this year. And what a first game to go to.
Yeah, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. Tell me your thoughts about that game 6, because obviously game 5 was a devastating loss for Texas with the Altuve home run and everything. And game 6 was back and forth and back and forth. And you've had bullpen issues. Hell, you've had bullpen subscriptions for the second part of the year.
What
And
bullpen issues? I've never.
they load the bases up. It's just a one game after what happened in Houston. It must have been in the back of your mind thinking, "Oh, here is hello, other shoe. Be prepared to drop."
It wasn't in the back of my mind, Sully. It was front and center and all of my mind. It was all encompassing. And I mean, I said it there was in the preview videos that we did, before the postseason. And one of the questions was, why is your bullpen good enough to win the World Series? And this was historically one of the worst bullpens in the history of ever. They blew more saves in the regular season than they converted. I think 33 blown saves to 30 converted saves. And like with even an average bullpen, this Rangers team probably wins like 100 to 300 games in the regular season. More than 90. And it doesn't come down to the last day, but I was in abject terror. And then Adolis Garcia continues one of the most amazing runs of 4 playoff games in a row that I've ever seen, even in the midst of an 0 for 4 with 4 strikeout day, seals it with a grand slam, takes the air out of the building in Houston, and then does it again in game 7, because that man, that's a bad man.
Well, let me tell you 2 things. I mentioned this in a previous episode, but I wanted your take on it. I gave a ton of credit to Bochy for not going to Chapman in the 8th, but bringing Leclerc, because I've been tweeting for a long time now, don't bring Chapman into big situations. He blows it. And if Chapman came walking out there, then I would just be calling up Brett Chansey right now, getting ready for H-Town to be here for the World Series preview. I think that was an incredibly smart decision. But the other thing that just shows you what a difference a year makes. The fact that Jeremy Pena wasn't the Jeremy Pena of last year, the ALCS and World Series MVP Jeremy Pena, the fact that he had to be pinch hit for with a series on the line. A year ago, Pena was the exact person you would want at the plate at that point. And then they brought in John Singleton, not the late director of Boys in the Hood, but the other John Singleton. And he winds up striking out the biggest at-bat of the year, and you have a guy who was out of baseball for 3 years. And part of me thought, what a great story that would be. I know you wouldn't agree with that. But
it was a great story to have him be up there and to strike out. I thought that was great.
But I thought that was a great handling of Bochy to not. You know what? I'm going to throw the book out right now, because if I bring Chapman in, this is the last. They were one swing away from being 3 outs away from elimination, essentially.
Yeah, and the thing is, and we all know the thing about Chapman and how he blows a lot of games. And there are a few situations that, even if they're close situations, where Chapman does well in. There's not many of them, but they found this specific sweet spot. You can't pitch him on 0 days. You can't throw him in back-to-back days, because on 0 days rest, he's got a just insane ERA of 8.68, and has walked 15 batters in 9 1/3 innings. Just absolutely wild on 0 days rest. But in the 8th inning, he is also good in those situations. He has a much better ERA in the 8th inning than any other inning, a 1.95 ERA in the 8th inning, 4.05 in the 7th, 4.15 in the 9th, and a 9 ERA in extra innings. So you throw him in the 8th inning, you throw him not on multiple, with at least a day's rest. And so by not throwing him in game 6, he had him with, days rest for game 7, which I thought, yes, that is what you want to do. And then by scoring those runs in the top of the 9th inning, you're able to throw Andrew Heaney for 4 pitches and not have to have Leclerc go back out there for a second inning, right, and have to sit down for a long time, which is the exact problem in game 5. So just a whole lot of things that went really right for the Rangers in that final inning and a half.
Yeah. Well, look at it's great thoughts, great news about the Rangers. If you're a Ranger fan, or in my home, a Brice Paterik fan, and we are going to set up some food this weekend and go grocery shopping. Which reminds me, do you know what? How does a free World Series meal sound like? All the fixings you want with all the food and all the snacks. Well, guess what? This year, Ibotta is here to give you cash back and help make sure that your World Series spread is complete. Because who wants the chips without the dip? The best part of any baseball food being spread out are all the things, all the different sides and all the things you dip into. With Ibotta, you can make sure that everyone's favorite side dishes is ready to be eaten. Well, you get some cash back yourself. Look at ball games like this means get-togethers of all your friends coming to the house watching the game, but you don't have to spend all that money on the spread without getting something in return. With Ibotta, you can have your cake and eat it too. Now, this World Series is going to go into November. We all know it. And starting November 1st, for the fourth year in a row, Ibotta is giving you 100% cash back on all your food and all your groceries. Just add the offers in the app to redeem for everything you need to make your feast complete. All you have to do is shop at your favorite retailers and upload your receipt. Ibotta gives you cash back on hundreds of grocery items, from produce, personal care, and pantry goods. So you can make sure you're beating inflation no matter what you're purchasing. And you can also earn cash back on hundreds of online brands and retailers too when you start with Ibotta, including Lowe's, Macy's, Sephora, Best Buy, and many more. Download the Ibotta app and use code MLB to get 100% cash back on your groceries starting November 1st. Just go to the App Store or Google Play and download the free Ibotta app and use code MLB. That's IBOTTA in the Google Play or App Store, and use the code MLB. Didn't mean to step on the bumpers.
You're fine.
Hey, let's talk about, we got the series between you two guys here. And it's funny, there's no real villain in this series. You know, the brash Phillies are out, the hated Astros are out. We have two cute and cuddly teams, two underdogs. Sorry, Brice, but there's an underdog. You know, this was
no, I like it. I like the underdog. You know, that no one believed in us.
Hey, in mid-September, both the Diamondbacks and Rangers were out of the playoffs. And 2 years ago, they were...
Good thing the playoffs don't start in mid-September.
I know. And 2 years ago, your teams were 100-loss teams. I'm looking at you, Angels. These two teams were able to take 100 losses and flip it to the World Series in 2 years. You've had Shohei Ohtani and Mike Trout for more than half a decade, and you're like, I don't know, maybe we can approach 500. Anyway, let's talk about the two teams left standing. Millard, what are you most nervous about going into the series? And we all know who your game 1 and your game 2 starters. Who you got game 3? Or is it going to be fought again?
I think it has to be fought with how he's pitched so magically, right? And historically during this MLB postseason so far. And I just think that the thing that I'm most nervous for entering the series is this magic that the D-backs have displayed, is it just going to disappear at some point, right? Because the D-backs are playing way above their expectations level. They've been playing above their head their whole postseason with how their offense has been able to battle back. Obviously, they've been doing that the whole year, but doing it against teams like the Phillies with dominant offenses and the Dodgers and the Brewers. And then your pitching has been phenomenal, from your rotation to the bullpen. Like, at some point, is the clock going to strike midnight and this D-backs team turns back into pumpkins? I'm hoping that's not the case, because going against this Rangers team, the thing that scares me most about the Rangers, talking with Brice Paterik before the podcast, is that lineup. We talked about it yesterday. I'm a guy that leans offense I look at sports teams, and that Rangers lineup just reminds me of what we just went against in this Philadelphia Phillies series, because that lineup is so deep and stacked. And you talk about villains. I don't even think our Adolis Garcia is a villain in Major League Baseball right now.
No,
I had
I
him
don't
on
think so, no.
5 fantasy teams. Like, I'm pro Garcia. This man has won me money in my leagues like the last couple of years. So there's not a player on the. I think there's probably one player on the Rangers a bunch of people hate, but outside of that, dude, I'm pretty sure everyone is pro everyone on both of these teams. So I just need to make sure the D-backs have to keep doing what they did against the Phillies the last couple games and what they did against the Dodgers. They were able to cut off the head of the snake, the top of the lineup. They were able to really shut that down against the Dodgers in the last couple games against the Phillies. If you can slow down the Seagers and the Simeons and the Garcias of the world, the D-backs will have a chance in the series. Get to that bullpen, because, Brice, I want to know, are you still feeling a little scared when you see that Rangers bullpen come in later in the games? Because we know the answer backs love to score runs 7th inning and on.
Well, to tell you, to illustrate that point, while I was at Game 7 and the Rangers threw in Aroldis Chapman with an 8-run lead in the 8th inning, I was terrified out of my mind. I said, you fools, don't give them hope. They like this man. They tee off on this man. They have success against this man in this building. Even with Jose Leclerc on the mound with an 8-run lead in the 9th inning, I was still kind of trembling in my boots. And I love Leclerc and he's been great. But and Josh Boers has been amazing. But yeah.
And before we get back to you, Sully, I just want to I'm going to end the narrative right here about the underdog Texas Rangers with the 4th biggest payroll in Major League Baseball. I don't want to hear about, I can't believe they're here. They got one of the most expensive rosters in the sport. They got stars up and down that lineup, the rotation. You're talking about an underdog story, a team that we did not expect to be here. You better end that sentence with the Arizona Diamondbacks. That's all.
Well,
it's
funny. It's funny. All of the narrative ball about the Astros being like, "Oh, the Rangers bought their team versus built it." Well, I mean, the Rangers payroll this year, according to SpotTrack, is 245 and a half. Wait, hold on, 250 million, and the Astros 237 million. But
yeah, right there.
They also kind of it's also misleading, because it includes all $43 million of Max Scherzer's salary, which the Rangers are not paying $43 million for Max Scherzer right now. So that would bump them way, way down. There's also $12 million of Jake Odorizzi, $10 million, I believe, of which was paid by the Braves. There's also $30 million of Jake DeGrom on the IL. That's all theirs. But like, it's really like, and you look at the active,
they're paying that one.
Yeah, they're paying that one. But if you look at the 26-man payroll at the end of the season, when John Gray and Max Scherzer were on the IL, the Rangers 26-man payroll was $148 million, which would have been 18th behind the St. Louis Cardinals. So, like, there's a few guys that are big money guys, but like this narrative that like the Rangers bought everybody, like they bought a few guys that are expensive, but for the most part, it's a lot of homegrown youngsters on both these teams.
May I say,
Go ahead.
I hate the narrative of they bought it, because that's what the team's supposed to do.
Yeah.
The teams, every team is owned by a Scrooge McDuck person who has enough money to send their great grandchildren to law school without getting a scholarship.
No. So actually, you might have missed this in the newest CBA. Actually, only the Texas Rangers can spend money on good players. Everyone else, if they do that, they will be shot and shamed for.
Well, the Astros have homegrown players like Justin Verlander, like Jose Abreu. You know, they got players who just came up through the. No, what nonsense! The ownership is. There's a lot of things I'm going to talk about in a later episode this week. But there's a lot of things we have to determine. What are we getting outraged? Are we outraged that it's the same teams winning every year? Okay, we got some new teams. Oh, no one wants to see them. Oh, our owners aren't spending any money. Hey, we're going to spend money to try to win our first championship in team history. Oh, way to go. Way to buy it. You got to pick one. You can't be outraged at everything. The Rangers and their management did what every sports team wants their ownership to do, to say, we're not satisfied being a 100-loss team. We're going to spend some money and put a good team on the field. So, yeah, you can't. How can you get mad at the Rangers for doing what fans want them to do?
And look, even
Oh.
though I love all those graphics that show how much each win is worth that the D-backs spend versus every other team, guess what? Every D-backs fan going to this offseason is like, you better add to this roster. Go out there, add a couple big bats. Go get a legit, another starter in that rotation. Like, you shouldn't sit on your hands when you had such a cheap team make it to the World Series. Now it's the time to go all in, spend some money, and really max this roster around young stars like Corbin Carroll.
And hope that they stay healthy.
Yeah.
And speaking of staying healthy.
Hey, yep. Haven't really worked with that bumper too much. But yeah, if you're talking about staying healthy, the best thing you need to get is Jase Medical, because the JCase is a personalized emergency medication kit that contains 5 essential antibiotics that treat the most common and deadly bacterial infections. You can also customize your case and add additional life-saving medications based on your unique needs. The JCase provides 5 life-saving antibiotics for emergency use. All it takes to get a JCase is fill out a simple online form, and in some cases, jump on a quick call with one of our board-certified physicians, get ongoing care from our physicians on any treatment-related questions. Doctor created, doctor recommended. So go to jasemedical.com and enter code LOCKEDON at checkout for a $20 discount on your order. That's promo code locked on at jasemedical.com.
Now, we jumped on, get the banner out of there. We jumped on about the worries about the Diamondbacks, about the Rangers bullpen issues. I'm sorry. It is, I really think this is going to be an intriguing series because the Rangers do jump on the starting pitchers. They've jumped on wonderful starting pitchers this whole postseason. And the Diamondbacks jump on people's bullpens. So I have a feeling you may see a game where the Rangers go up 5-0 and the final score is 6-5. I'm not telling you which one wins. What are you most confident about in your scoring, and which person do you think is has the most pressure on them?
I think the Rangers have the most pressure on them, honestly, because the Diamondbacks, they have been like, I mean, both teams are underdogs, and the Rangers just came where they're just the underdog of underdogs in every single series. And but now they come in and they're the home field team. And they're
the big boys.
They are the big
payroll. They're the big mean Rangers.
Exactly. And they're the big market, the big whatever the TV executive care about or whatever. And yeah, I mean, both these teams, I think the Diamondbacks swept both their first series, right? And then went to 7. Oh yeah, so these teams have won and lost the exact same amount of games. Like basically went about it in the exact same way. They both went down 3-2, and they both went on the road into allegedly very tough road ballparks and won the final 2 games. Yeah. But I'm confident in this Rangers offense of scoring early. I mean, the one thing this Rangers team, the last time you and I did a crossover, I talked about the Diamondbacks threw a what's it called, bullpen game, and that's the one thing that shut down this Rangers offense in the regular season is they just like could not hit against bullpens. And so the first couple of games of that series in Houston, the Rangers jumped out to an early lead and then couldn't quite tack more on, but held on. And then that's the thing that was most encouraging to me about Game 7 and also a little bit in Game 6 is that the Rangers finally got to the bullpen of the Astros, which is a very good bullpen, and got justice against Brian Abreu for his suspension, not suspension nonsense in the form of an Nathaniel Lowe home run. So this is going to be interesting. I mean, these Rangers guys, I mean, they've been good. The 3 arms that they trust back there in Spores and Chapman and Leclerc, but they've been ridden really, really hard. So they might be getting a little tired of having to throw them so many times. So this is going to be such great theater and such great baseball because they're two very different offenses that are both very good.
Yeah, it feels like which of the two forces, the Rangers scoring early versus the D-backs scoring late, which one is going to give? Because the D-backs starting pitching is definitely going to need to step up in a big way to slow down that Rangers offense. And that's why the guy that I think has the most pressure on is the guy that is considered the ace of the D-backs rotation, who struggled in his 2 starts against the Phillies. Zach Gallen is the man I'm watching for to set the tone in game 1 against the Rangers, because you look at game 1 against the Phillies, Zach Gallen set the tone, but he did not set it for the Arizona Diamondbacks, as Kyle Schwarber led off the game. First pitch home run. 2 batters later, Bryce Harper also hit a home run. Zach Gallen got kind of shelled against the Phillies, and it's not too surprising because that Phillies offense is loaded, like we discussed. So I need to see Zach Gallen get off to a good start against this Rangers offense. The pitcher I have the most trust in on the D-backs rotation right now is Merrill Kelly. So yeah, he could get crushed by the Rangers, but I also feel pretty good heading into that start. With Zach Gallen, despite him being the ace of this team, he's the guy I feel maybe even more nervous about than Brandon Pfaadt, who's a rookie for the D-backs, with how he's looked his last 3 starts. So I think it's a big test for Zach Gallen, a guy who was the first half Cy Young Award winner, who slowed down the final few weeks of the season, kind of hit a wall. Was good his first couple turns through the rotation in the early part of the postseason, but struggled against that Phillies offense. So with the Rangers having a similar offense to Philadelphia, I want to see is Zach Gallen, if he could set the tone early as the D-backs game 1 starter.
Yeah. Well, I think this is going to be an exciting series. I am going to ask you both to make your prediction.
Oh,
Ooh,
I don't do
predictions
predictions
already.
Sully. I'm
Predictions
staying away
already.
with the D-backs this postseason. I haven't made one prediction on anything. I'm going to keep it that way. I'm enjoying the ride. Win or lose with the D-backs, it's been a fantastic season, so I just want to keep enjoying this ride. I'm just going to sit back and enjoy.
Cowardly.
Yeah. Hey, Philly
I
fans
say
want to make predictions. We'll let those guys make predictions. We don't do that over here.
I said Rangers in 5 last series. I was
my
wrong. I was almost
5.
very right. I felt very confident. But hey, they won. That's what matters. I'm gonna say Rangers in 6 in this one. I'm not gonna underestimate the D-backs like I did the Astros. But I really underestimated Brandon Pfaadt. Like when I was like talking about like how well the Rangers match up with different teams, and watching his starts, I'm like, okay. I apologize. It's that meme. I apologize to that man. I was unfamiliar with your game. Like I was unfamiliar with Brandon Pfaadt's game, because we saw, I believe it was his major league debut against the Rangers, and he got. It was back in May, that first series that we played against each other in Texas. It was maybe not his first start, but it was one of his first couple of starts in the big leagues, and I think the Rangers shelled him. And I
they
was
probably
like,
did. If you saw early Pfaadt the whole regular season with just a home run pro, like a Lance Lynn. He had nasty stuff, but he gave up a lot of home runs. So he's been great this postseason, but against that Rangers offense, like anything is possible. And I'm scared he could go back to those home run problems.
I mean,
okay, well, we got to wrap this episode up. We're hitting the clock right now.
No, we got a few more minutes, Sully. We got like 3 more minutes. It's fine.
Well, I'm going to make my prediction.
Okay, make your prediction.
I predicted the Diamondbacks would get swept in the wild card round by Milwaukee. I predicted that the Dodgers would have their way with them, and I thought that the Phillies were just better and we're going to beat them in 4. And I have been wrong every time.
Do it again.
Diamondbacks in 7.
I didn't want to hear that. I didn't want to.
Diamondbacks in 7.
Oh, thank you, Sully. Oh, your doubting has given this Rangers team power. It really has. And
it's given both of your teams power. I thought you were both getting swept in the first round.
I'm sure you just wanted to pick, nobody in 7, so you can
No, I have to pick somebody. Well, look at, and you know what? I've picked you two out of all the podcasters to be picked you both at random to be part of our World Series preview. And if the Diamondbacks win the World Series, I want a webcam on Paul Goldschmidt to see. He wanted to be on a winner. He wanted to be on a winner. He got traded away. And the team he got traded away from that he came up with was the man for. It got to the World Series before the Cardinals. Was there a bet on FanDuel for that? Well, look at
before we close this out, I want to issue an official apology to Millard Thomas for the things that I said to you after the end of the regular season. I was hurt. I was spiteful, and I was upset that your Diamondbacks could not take one game off those
Yeah.
stinking Houston Astros in that last series of the regular season.
I remember the match.
But your D-backs, they knew something that I didn't. They knew that they were doing the Rangers a favor, giving them that extra motivation to fly to Tampa and to, reset themselves. So actually, I want to thank you.
Is that how it works?
That's exactly how it worked. They knew what they were doing, and they were looking out for me personally and the Texas Rangers. And I want to thank them for letting the Astros feel very good about themselves for, a couple of weeks and then get knocked around at their home ballpark in Game 7. Because without the D-backs teeing that up for that, you set up the alley for the oop that I could not see coming, and I want to thank you for that.
Yeah, we knew the Astros were worse at home, so we want to set that up for you, Brice. You're welcome.
There you go. Well, we got a World Series starting this weekend. Brice Paterik of Locked On Rangers, where can people find your show?
You can find my show wherever you find your podcasts and on YouTube. We are also trying to get to 3 billion. Was it 2 billion subscribers that you're going for?
Okay. 2 billion subscribers.
Well, we're going for 3 billion subscribers. We're a little bit short of that. But you can find us on YouTube wherever you get your podcast. Find me on Twitter at Brice Paterik, and you can find the show at Locked On Rangers. We got the actual Locked On Rangers, not the underscore like the hockey team.
Millard, tell us.
I will say I was trying to craft a tweet to mention Locked On Rangers yesterday, and I was pretty scared I was going to tag the New York Rangers. So thankfully, I was able to do that right. Follow my personal Twitter account, @CreatorThomas24. Look up Locked On Diamondbacks, both Twitter and Instagram. Of course, we're on all your podcasting platforms. And please hit subscribe to Locked On Diamondbacks on YouTube.
And we're at Locked On MLB Pods on Twitter, or whatever it's called now, on Instagram. And I'm your pal Sully, but Sully Baseball on Twitter, Sully Baseball Podcast on Instagram. Previewing the World Series with the pennant winners that we all picked at the beginning of the year. On behalf of Brice Paterik, on behalf of my buddy Millard, I'm your pal Sully. This has been the Locked On MLB, Locked On Rangers, Locked On Diamondbacks crossover. Let's play ball.